Where are the leaders? Where are the heroes? Where are the people that we can have our children look up to?
The distance between who we are being and who we really are is going to be our level of suffering. Look in the mirror, and what life is asking us to assess is, am I being who I say I am? What are we living for if we don't have something that's worth dying for?
The invitation here is that the call for courage it's blaring. It's louder than ever before. And the question in that is, are you going to answer it? And I believe that you will.
Because whether we do or not, this world will keep spinning.
The headlines scream chaos, wars, climate crisis, disconnection. But beneath the noise, something else is happening. Quietly, steadily, people are building breakthroughs in AI, longevity, clean energy, space, and beyond. The call for courage isn't subtle anymore. It's blaring and it's personal. And the tools are there for you to become the superhero that you know you're capable of being. The question is, will you answer the call?
I want to take a moment to share about a powerful mental health resource that has been a total game changer for me, and that's Anywhere Clinic. For the past 2.5 years, I've been working with an online psychiatric provider, and the impact has truly been incredible because therapy isn't just a tool for crisis moments. It's a tool for personal growth, emotional mastery, and overall wellness. And with Anywhere Clinic, you can get virtual expert care from the comfort of your home. Whether you're exploring ketamine therapy, you need medication management, or just a supportive guide, it's time to prioritize you. And you can by visiting anywhereclinic.com. You can book an online appointment for as low as $120 or check and see if your insurance covers it. So go to anywhereclinic.com because your mental health deserves it.
Welcome back to another episode of How to Stay Human. I'm Kyle, sitting beside the lovely Tori.
Hi.
Such a treat to be with you all again. You know, we had an opportunity to speak about on the last episode about how do we navigate what feels like an oftentimes very chaotic world, right? How do we find clarity amidst the confusion and amidst the conflict? And what is the world asking of us right now? I think it's asking for us to be great. I think the opportunity to be everything that you know you are capable of being, I think the call for that is stronger than ever before. And frankly, I think that the world is knocking, and I think that our species is knocking eagerly, and at times it can almost feel like desperately. So we look in our world today and we wonder, where are the leaders? Where are the heroes? Where are the people that we can have our children look up to? And the case that I oftentimes find myself making is that they're nowhere except within you. So I'm excited to explore in this episode today, one, where are they? Have they ever existed? Are they in our world today? And two, what it means to bring your superpowers online, what it means for you to become the most complete, best, fully activated version of yourself, and why our species needs that more than ever before. So I can't wait to dive into this. It's such an incredibly important topic to me, especially during a time of, again, the chaos, the confusion, and the conflict, and during a time where it's like, it's so fun now because we look at superheroes like the Batmans and the Iron Mans that, you know, in a lot of ways, these are people, you know, these are characters that we idolize, but these are characters that are actually just normal, regular individuals who just had access to these amazing tools and a deep belief in themselves. And all of a sudden, we now have access to those same tools. The piece that sometimes is
You're saying we can fly?
I'm saying we're not too far away. I mean, you know, I've shared with our audience before, but I get the amazing opportunity to lead this incredible community of 600 visionary entrepreneurs, founders, and investors called Abundance 360. And it's led by this amazing visionary, Peter Diamandis, who we'll talk about in this episode a little bit today. But yes, we might actually be able to fly. You know, at our summit over the last couple of years, we've brought all these amazing next generation technologies, one of them being they're called electric vertical landing and takeoff vehicles, eVTOLs, right? And they are going to be tiny flying cars. So yeah, we might be flying actually in our lifetime, but even more so than that, you know, that might seem far-fetched and far away, but what doesn't is what's in your hands right now, and maybe on your wrist and maybe in your ears, right? That these technologies and tools are right here with us. And so how do we use them as a force of good and not allow them to take us over as a force of evil? I think it's awfully exciting. But, you know, when we talk about what leads to moments like these where superheroes are called forward, you know, we look at like any classic comic book, and oftentimes the superhero shows up when things are not so great, right? You don't need a hero in a perfectly peaceful world, but we've never really had a perfectly peaceful world. And that's oftentimes what brings the heroes out. And I think given the state of affairs that we're in today, the heroes are more important now than ever before. So, we talk about a lot of the conflict that we're experiencing in society, right? And it's easy to point at things like, Russia and Ukraine, or Israel and Gaza, or the recent shooting of Charlie Kirk. I mean, there's so many headlines, but really the greatest conflict is the one that exists within us individually, right? The greatest conflict is the one that we all experience on a day-to-day basis and ends up shaping our view of reality and, in my opinion, leading to some of the greater conflicts that we experience as a species. So I want to turn things over to you for a second, baby. I like to think of Tori as an expert on our species, right? She studies us, she understands us, she gets the science of us, she also gets the spirituality of us. And one of the things I wonder is why? Why is there so much internal conflict? Why now does it feel like it's greater than ever before? What do you see in your clients? What's your outlook on this?
I think that there's a really big gap I think there's a disconnect from our soul, and we talked about this on the last episode quite a bit, but the distance between who we are being and who we really are is going to be our level of suffering, I think. And a lot of us are feeling that gap between, the version of us that we imagine in our minds, the version of us that we our higher self, the version of us that we aspire to become. And then we look within, or the version of us that we portray on social media, the version of us that we show to the world, the persona and the identity that we've worked so hard to craft and curate. And I think the conflict comes up when who we are internally doesn't match who we are being externally.
Yeah.
There is a tension that we feel when our insides don't match our outsides. And if we take the external as any indication for what's happening, if the external is any indication for what's happening, then internally we all must be really, really mixed up.
Yeah, oftentimes, to Tori's point there, the greater challenges and disruptions that we see in society are oftentimes just a direct reflection of what we are experiencing internally as
it's a mirror.
A species, right? It's a mirror, exactly.
As above, so below, so within, so as within, so without. These are the laws of nature and the laws of the universe. And I think we've just missed the boat on, we think what's more important is to convince people that we are a certain way and then try internally to become that, versus being honest about who we are or what we're experiencing and letting that speak for itself, because we're trying to, again, the ego's trying to be perceived a certain way.
Yeah. It's trying to preserve itself.
Right. But, what's become so much clearer to me in the last few months is that the people that we have pedestaled, the people that we think have it figured out, the people that we think are further along than us are just like us. They are questioning, they're confused, they're unsure, and they may or may not show that because they want to be seen as a, stoic force, or they don't want you to see a crack in their armor. But the reality is that we're all human, which is the nature of this show. And I think your power doesn't come in being perfect. It comes in being authentic.
100%. Trust the leader that openly struggles the most. Trust the person that is willing to share their vulnerability and also willing to stand with certainty and confidence within it. Find the person that ultimately is the anchor in the storm, right? And so it kind of comes back to, in a lot of ways, I think many people perceive that the world that we're in right now feels sort of like that storm, right? And in many ways, based off what we're saying, we can feel under-equipped to be able to manage the storm, right? It's like the state of the world right now feels so incredibly uncertain, and it's because of the state of our internal world feeling so incredible, in such incredible disarray. And so, one of the things I'm curious about from your perspective is what is it that allows us to be equipped to manage the world we're in today. We know that we can't externalize it to others because we know that they're struggling too. We know that the power is within, but we also know that there's a dissonance that you're describing between us and that power. There's a distance that exists. So like being as ill-equipped as we are, being as chaotic as the world is, like where do we go next?
Preparation. I mean, smooth seas never made a skilled sailor. You want a storm? This is the time to you want to be a good sailor? Learn how to sail in the midst of a storm. How do you learn how to do that? Hopefully you've prepared. Hopefully you've done some preparation work before you get out onto the quote unquote battlefield.
Yep.
If you are going into, a battle with no armor or no preparation, like you're going to be ill-equipped. Right. And so the Bible talks about this. Put on the full armor of God. It talks about the breastplate of righteousness. It talks about the, truth. Like the things that should armor us are not our judgment and our shame and the ways that we weaponize, each other's humanity against each other. It's about coming back to truth, coming back to love, coming back to righteousness, coming back to the things that are sacred.
Yeah.
And letting. And this is the rise of honestly, like I'm calling forward the love warriors, the peaceful warriors, the people that it's not about like sweeping injustices and bypassing oppression and not looking at the realities of life. It's saying, I see them and I am going to stand up for truth and love. And I'm going to let love be my weapon as the medicine and like, the world needs. I'm going to let my compassion and my empathy and my understanding and my willingness to listen to someone else be the thing that, calms the storm instead of stokes the fire. Because we can either continue to stoke the fire of division and chaos internally and externally, or we can pour water on it. And that through our behavior, through our actions, through the way that we show up in relationship with each other.
I mean, yes, on so many levels. I think a lot of what it ultimately comes down to is presence, right? And a lot of what you were sharing is just that. It's like finding clarity in the chaos requires presence. It's not ignoring the storm, but actually entering into it and finding and centering within it, right? It's about acknowledging and recognizing that this is here, but I am also here. Yeah, please.
Well, yeah, it's like this is the time to practice the things that you say that you believe.
Exactly. Yep.
If you're going to claim certain belief systems that you are a stand for justice and love and equity and unity, if we're going to, claim the identity of Christian, or if we're going to claim the identity of spiritualist, then our lives we will be judged by the fruit of our lives.
Yes. Will you stand up for the thing that you claim that you believe in?
Because otherwise, the Bible says you're just a clanging gong and a clanging cymbal. You're just making noise. You're not doing anything. So this is the time to practice embodying that which you say you value.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's a performance. You're just doing it to look cool, for people to accept you, it's not real. It's not authentic. But this is the moment where those who are really devoted to what they say they believe are are feeling that call to step forward.
100%. The disruption that we are experiencing is an invitation to step into the thing that you claim you believe in. But let's not forget that being a hero is hard. Let's not forget that being a hero means standing up for something that you believe in that others might not believe in. And the biggest piece is that you are going to put yourself at risk. The challenge that we are at in our society today is that so many people fear becoming the thing that they know they are capable of being because they think the world will shut them out. This is cancel culture.
It's self-protection. It's self-preservation.
It's 100% self-protection and self-preservation.
I'm going to go but it is cowardice.
Of course it is. Yeah, it's fear.
And you've got to decide what you want to be known for. You've got to decide now if you're going to be a coward or if you're going to be courageous. Because that's what a leader does. A leader goes first. A leader is not the one that's saying, hey, army, go into battle, and I'm going to be hanging out behind you. They're the one that's leading the charge. They're the ones that are in the front lines. They're the one that's saying, I will be persecuted. I will be looked down upon. I'm willing to be canceled in the name of the thing that I say, I claim, I believe is true or holy or worthy of, if laying my life down for.
Yes.
And because what are we living for if that we don't have something to die for that's worth dying for?
And the problem is that so many of us are making great impact, but we're doing it behind the scenes because we're afraid that if we put ourselves in the front, that we will die or that we will be persecuted or that we will be canceled. But do you really believe in something that you're not willing to die for? And die doesn't necessarily mean physically die, but it might mean socially die, but it might mean emotionally experience significant levels of pain and pushback and so forth. But like, let's ask ourselves, were there ever heroes that were willing to do this? Are there people that you're willing to look at and say, that person is someone that I admire, look up to, and respect, and left an indelible mark on humanity, that was willing to be canceled, that was willing to die for what they believed in? Have any in mind?
I can think of a few.
I can think of many. I mean, the first one that like screams at me, of course, is Martin Luther King, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
A great example.
It's a perfect example because Martin Luther King, he did not exist during the time of cancel culture in the way that we know it is, but he was canceled time and time and time again. He was willing to stand on the front line. He was willing to lead the masses. He was willing to lead, a minority against the masses during a time where everybody and everything else for decades had been put against him. And yet we revere him and admire him as someone that we want to be like. And yet we won't take the step to be that.
Well, yeah, because we see what happened to him.
Of course.
We look at Jesus. We see what happened to Jesus. We look at Nelson Mandela's been 27 years in prison. You know what I mean? Like, you want to look at the heroes, the spiritual, like the leaders over the course of history. A lot of them endured a lot of suffering, if not death.
Of course.
And, this is the moment though, to look in the mirror and what life is asking us to assess is, am I being who I say I am? Am I acting am I who I really believe myself to be? Or am I more than that? Do I have more to give? Where are the gaps between what I claim and what I say I value and what I actually practice? Because there's no better example than a corporation, for instance, that claims to value health or we're people over profits, and then you get onboarded into their company and you see the lack of integrity that happens inside those organizations.
Welcome to the modern corporate social agenda.
But it's all over our website and look at and we're aligned with this and we're aligned with that. But then you see what, from the inside, that is culture. Culture is what it feels like that's what a company culture is what it feels like to actually work for you. Are you who you say you are, or is it a prop? And it's the same thing that it goes with spirituality, with God, with your values, with whatever. Are you using it are you claiming that because it's real to you, or because it's a prop to be seen a certain way? I have no respect for people who use true, honest, good things as a manipulation tactic to get ahead that they don't actually practice. Nothing will get under my skin more. And the true heroes, if we want to talk about superheroes and heroes, are the people who live in integrity with what they say.
Yes. 100%. And I think in a lot of ways what we're illustrating here is there's a gap that exists, not just in ourselves and not just in corporations and what we say, what we preach and what we actually do, or even more so what we preach and what we actually be. So the question then comes are there any left? Are there any people left who are genuinely doing things with the purpose of A, being in integrity with themselves, and B, being in service of humanity. And I want to take some time before we go into everything that we are, well, I think we've spent a lot of time already in terms of everything that we're not seeing, but I want to acknowledge what we are seeing, because I think oftentimes the narrative is we're indoctrinated with this idea that things are falling apart, right? We are constantly in this space of that the system is collapsing. And one of the things that we shared in the previous episode, one of the things that I mentioned is that the richest soil comes after the forest burns, right? And the forest is already burning and the soil is already rich. This is a continuous process of death and rebirth that we are experiencing on a day-to-day basis. But there are a lot of epic, wonderful things that our species is experiencing right now. So, we hear a lot about this idea of I spent years and years and years in the blockchain space, and it was all about basically creating identifiable proof that something actually has occurred, right? That's essentially how the Bitcoin network verifies itself, is it's got a system of proof of work in the case of Bitcoin for you tech nerds out there. But my question in the case of heroism is what's the proof that our species is being heroic right now? And so I have a lot of that I can pick from, because I live in a space where I get to experience 600 incredible visionary entrepreneurs every day that in my opinion are being a hero in their world in some way. But I want to look to you as someone that oftentimes experiences people who maybe haven't tuned into that yet. Where do you look to for inspiration and for hope and for heroism in our world?
Unfortunately, we don't have I recently saw Matthew McConaughey say on a show that he had noticed within himself this cynic that had started to develop, and that he had become cynical about the world that we live in, and that there aren't a lot of good examples to look to anymore, and that made him. And I wonder if that's partly why he's felt this charge to, write the new book and go on this podcast tour and start to be one of the examples, to try and be the thing that you want to see in the world, right? I created a community here in Vegas because I wanted a community.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see someone leading a community to be part of. So I became the leader of the thing that I wanted to experience. So if you want to see something that you're not seeing, become it, right? But, over the years, the people that I've admired and I've looked up to have changed and evolved. At times in my career, there were, I looked up to people like Oprah, who had a conscious media company. I looked up to, Brene Brown, who was, really speaking to these important topics around shame and vulnerability, and felt like she was really connected to the human experience and the beauty and the persistence of the human spirit. Mm-hmm. I've looked up to people like Glennon Doyle Melton, who wrote the book Untamed, who talks about, many thought leaders. I look up to people like Gabor Mate, who's done incredible work in trauma healing. I look up to people who, a lot of the people who are elders of in the consciousness and spirituality space, and in somatics and spiritual psychology, and because I'm obsessed with understanding myself, right? But overall, I also look to the ascended masters and across all different types of religions, Jesus, the Buddha, from Taoist principles to, Hindu philosophy, where can I find something that resonates as truth for me, and study what their lives were like, study the monks, study the Taoists, study, those like MLK and Nelson Mandela and those who lived, who stood for something and made a difference in the world. What is the common denominator between all of those people? And I think you've spoken to it, and part of it is courage.
Yes.
I learned from Brene Brown, one of my great teachers, that courage is a heart word. Is heart. Courage doesn't come from the mind. It comes from, a firefighter has courage because it runs into the issue. It runs into the flames. Yep. And the mind is telling you, get the hell out of there. Mm-hmm. The heart says there's something else worth pursuing, and I think part of the issue and the lack of heroes that we see is because we live in a world that is inundated and living from the level of the mind and not from the heart.
I love that. Incredible. It's such an important perspective to have courage. I like to also play with the idea of what is there to believe in anymore, right? Part of heroism to me is a big component of it is, having courage and the willingness to stand for what you believe in, like we've shared, and many of the ascended masters that you reference. And secondly, having a reason to believe, having faith in a future that is positive and hopeful and compelling, as you've heard me share before. So Tori and I, one of the reasons that I love being in partnership with you is because you oftentimes look to the past for hope. And what I oftentimes find myself doing is looking to the future for what we can create and what we are in the process of doing. And in that center point, I think we create really beautiful things together. So I love you for your ability to connect with what has served us as a species. When I look at the world today, I like to reference, and the things that keep me inspired and motivated every day to activate the inner hero within me. I like to say, like, what does the data actually show? Like, what are we doing right now that gives me a reason to believe that we are actually moving and trending in a direction that is more abundant for our species, right? Because I think the narrative is an easy one to fall into, which is, again, everything's burning, everything's falling apart, everything sucks, everyone's in division, everyone has lack of access to things, everyone's becoming more of a sheep. And so I want to just take a moment to just reference a couple of different data points that I think are really, really important. You can find these, by the way, online on one of my favorite leaders' website, Peter Diamandis. He's got a page called Evidence of Abundance. And I just want to read a few of these because I think they're really important to play with and really important to encourage us to believe in a future that's worth creating, right? So, number one, life expectancy has risen globally and child mortality has dropped significantly. Pretty incredible. That's a reason to keep living because we are able to stay alive. I think that's pretty unique. Electricity is almost entirely universal at this point. 90% of the world now has access to reliable electricity, something we could have probably never projected 50 years ago. We're experiencing, speaking on that same point, we're experiencing a huge growth in renewable energy, wind, solar, water, et cetera. And frankly, for our species to be able to continue to survive at the rate that we're growing at, we're going to continue to need to lean more heavily into these technologies. And we're seeing them, of course, now in vehicles, and we'll soon see them expressed and are utilized by humanoid robots and other sorts of robots that'll be a huge support of our society. Another one that I find really interesting in terms of like the foundational elements of what we are as a species is that extreme poverty has nearly halved over the last decade. And it's gone down to actually 9.3% as of 2020. So 9.3% of the globe is experiencing extreme poverty. That is massive and huge. And I suspect that number will continue to trend downwards as our species has greater access to information and greater access to resources. That's a reason to believe, for sure. Of course, this comes on the back of the fact that internet and global connectivity. And let's just note that, like, while I'm speaking about all of the amazing technological advancements, let's think about the results that these then create for humans. Let's think about the access that these then create for humans. So internet and global connectivity has expanded massively. Roughly 60% of our planet right now has access to the internet. Elon, whether you like him or not, he's going to continue to invest in ensuring that our species has access to the internet. And access to the internet means we have access to information and access to resources and access to the ability to create. So what happens to our species when we enable everyone on the planet to have access to the greatest tools that have ever existed in humanity's life cycle? I would make the case that we're going to see a lot more superheroes come alive. I would make the case that the reason that we don't see we don't see much of our species potential activated is because we just don't simply have the access to the things I've mentioned, like financial resources, energy, power, food and water, and information. If we start to close that gap, no longer will the graveyard be the richest place on earth, but maybe the earth that we actually get the opportunity to inhabit will be. And then, of course, I can continue onwards with, all the incredible technological growth that we've been experiencing. And as a result of this all, of course, education rates are rising globally. Amazingly, although this might sound contradictory to what we're experiencing now, we are having an overall decline in global violence and an increase in safety. We're having more democracies, more freedom across the world. And so the point being here is that it's not all bad. It's not all bad. In fact, there are superheroes that are existing in our world every single day. There were ones that existed before us, like Tori mentioned. There are ones that exist right now. And I make the case, as you've heard me make before, that a lot of this comes off the back of the growth that we're experiencing in technological advancements, and and as a result of that, creating greater access to abundance for the world around us. So I just want to stay tuned into this, that like, it's actually a pretty incredible time to be alive. I would make the case that this is the best time to be alive, but it all depends on where you choose to focus your attention, because where you focus your attention on magnifies. So
can I just say something?
Please.
You keep coming back to like, I love you to death. You keep coming back to this is the best time to be alive. I'll just go so far. Rather you think it's the best or the worst, it's the only time.
100%.
You don't get to choose if it's the best or the worst. It's the only time to be alive. So but
how great that it gets to be this time, right?
But this is it.
This is pretty cool.
This is it. There's no redo. Like there maybe, but like this is the life that you've signed up for. So either we get to live it fully, or we can miserably try to survive, or we can decide we don't want to do it anymore.
Yep.
Those are our options.
100%. My encouragement here with some of the things that I read is like, we have a really good reason to keep living, because it really is that good. So again, it kind of comes back to you, baby, which is like, again, I am the eternal and oftentimes blind optimist, right? I love looking at the things that are making us great, but you oftentimes in our relationship and really in your service to the world have a more grounded perspective, and like, yes. And so my question to you, being the person that has that not alternative perspective, but looks at things through maybe a more holistic lens than me at times, which is like, yes, it's great. And also it can suck. My question for you is like, where do you find your inspiration? Like, what keeps you going personally?
My mission, my purpose is what keeps me going. I have shifted, from my life feeling like it's all about me and what I want and what I desire, even though those are important things. And I still very much work to create a life and a lifestyle that affords me the ability to live life in the way I desire to. And yet, even that alone it speaks to my privilege. So what might be seen as a more grounded approach is really just an awareness of privilege, that some of us have it easier than others, that some of us have had opportunities others haven't, that some of us have more challenge than others. The other is I have shifted though from into a life of service, and thinking my life is not just about serving my needs and my desires, but contributing to something greater than me.
Yes, 100%.
And that is the mission and the purpose I believe my soul came here to fulfill. And that is the reason that I get up in the morning, and I will continue to do that as long as I have breath in my lungs. But I think those who don't have a connection to a purpose that is greater than themselves will struggle in the days and the months and the years to come.
Yes. So you are a superhero. Let's make sure that this is abundantly clear here. And Tori is tapping into two of the most important principles, in my opinion, of what it means to be a superhero, which is, number one, a purpose bigger than yourself. And to your point, we don't all have the luxury of having easy access to that. Some of us have to dig a lot deeper and find it.
Or we're just trying to take care of our basic needs.
100%.
And be able to think beyond ourselves.
And exactly.
We're just trying to survive.
100%. And if you look at the world we're living in today, frankly, in my opinion, a lot of the atrocities that we experience are because we don't have a species that's been able to expand beyond their basic needs.
For example, the children or the people in Gaza right now who would love to be thinking about a world beyond their experience, and to serve a collective, and to be able to have a purpose and a mission, and they don't have the luxury.
Right. Exactly. It's 100%. It is. And kudos to the people that are able to find purpose amidst chaotic and disruptive environments. Superhuman. Yeah. I mean, who is that? There was a story of, there's many stories like that. Was it Malala? Remember that story from a couple of years ago?
She wrote a book. I can't remember.
Yeah, and she was I can't remember the specific story, but she was a great example. The point being is they're far and few between, right? To the point where it's hard for us to even remember the names and the stories of the ones that do. But what we do know is that purpose will drive you out of even the most challenging of situations if you're anchored in that, right? And we've seen that with some of these people.
You see that when somebody's child gets sick.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you have a purpose to fight for something,
yes,
to
100%.
advocate for something, to raise awareness, to educate yourself around something that is beyond you, because there is a need that has expressed itself in your world. Now, I think for those of us who are searching for purpose, you need to look at the world and say, what does it need?
Yes.
And that is our, that is our mission. Marianne Williamson says in A Return to Love, we ask God, please send help. And God says, I sent you. You're the help. Be the hands and feet of Christ. Help your neighbor. Love thy neighbor as yourself. If you would take care of your own needs and your own desires in a certain way, extend that same grace and that same level of service to someone else. Do unto others.
Yeah.
That is the mission.
Yes. So, number one, a purpose that's bigger than yourself. Number two, and you're tapping right into it and into what I believe in, and unsurprisingly, you're taking the words out of my mouth, is a service to humanity, right? God helped us so that we can help ourselves, so that we can help others in the service to our species. Another one that I think is really important that you're tuning into here is that we all have an inherent responsibility, right? We have responsibility. And I think this kind of comes off the back of a service. It's not just that a principle of being a superhero is service to humanity, but it's understanding that we have an inherent responsibility with great power, the power of being human, and now soon to be the power of being human plus with a lot of what we've been gifted with that I was sharing earlier. We now have a certain responsibility. And like I said, with great power comes great responsibility. And so it does make me wonder though, like through your lens, like when I talk about responsibility, when does responsibility start to become ambiguous and start to shift into obligation? When do we start to move away from the things that we desire into the things that we feel like we have to do? And how can we stay leaning into these are the things that I desire and can be of service to humanity, part of my purpose, versus these are the things that humanity needs? The
thing about being human is that differentiates us from the rest of the animal kingdom is our ability to choose, is our ability to decide, to make a choice consciously about not just from survival instincts, but we get to decide which path are you going to take? Are you going to do this? Or are you going to do that? Think about the word responsibility, the ability to respond. You have a choice. Again, you're being faced with, how are you going to respond? That is your responsibility. Is in your what is all of our responsibility? How we decide to respond to whatever is in front of us. That is what you get to be responsible for. Your reaction, your response, the way that you act in accordance with what is true or you don't. That is your responsibility. Your responsibility is for me, my responsibility is to truth and to love above comfort and convenience. But that's what I have decided is are the things that anchor my decisions, that I filter my decisions from. If you do not know what you value, you will not know how to make choices. You will follow someone else. You will be a sheep because you don't know how to lead yourself based on a set of values or whatever, ethics, morals, virtues that you have decided are inherently important to you. Now, for me, truth, spirituality, connection, authenticity. These are some of the foundational ones that when I have to decide, what am I going to do? I filter, do these align with these values? And if the moments that I make decisions that are not aligned with those, I see a deviation from my soul. I get further away from who I really am. And I might make that decision out of fear. I might make that decision out of scarcity. I might make that decision out of ego. But ultimately, the gap between who I am and who I'm being is always based on the choices that I make. And if you want to change your life, change the choices that you're making. But obligation to finish your question, I think obligation is, it comes from a place of lack of empowerment, of feeling like like you said, I have to do something. There are certain things we have to do that we don't want to do. It's, because you're having to be responsible. I get that.
Yeah.
But where are you, when do you start self-sacrificing?
Right.
Because you feel obligated or you have to do something and you then forgo your own well-being in order to do that. I think that is also cutting yourself off.
100%. So I think this response is so beautiful. I want to break this down to what Tori's saying a little bit, because there's, in my opinion, two of the superhero principles that you're touching on right now, which is one of them, understand your core virtues and your core values, the things that you believe in and you will not sway from, right? And live those with integrity, right? So understanding your core values and living with integrity are key principles to being a superhero, in my opinion, right? And once we understand what's important to us, once we understand the values that we live through, we can filter our decisions through those, like you mentioned. And when anything comes our way that isn't a clear yes, this aligns with me, then it is a no. And the most important thing in life is having a filter for what a no is. Mm-hmm. The most important thing in life is let me back up. One of the most important things in life is having a filter for what your no is. Otherwise, you will continue to walk down paths that feel out of alignment and lead you to places that are dark, scary, uncertain, or simply not where you want to be. So finding your virtues and your values is important. I'm sure we'll have other conversations of what it means to actually find those. But once you have them, living in integrity with them, even when the world is telling you to look another way, you stay true to who you are. Right. And that comes back to really the core defining principle of what a superhero is, which is standing for what you believe in. But if I don't know what I believe in, what am I standing in? Right. So really important principle that you touched on there. I think that the other thing that I wanted to explore here too is this idea of responsibility and obligation. And, the world that we're living in right now is, especially for people that want to do good things and maybe do per se the right thing, the world is going to tell us it's going to say there are a series of very significant and very loud needs, right? Please help me with those. And my invitation to you is not to feel obligated to what the needs of the world appear to be. Not to feel obligated to what the needs of the world appear to be. Because what I find that oftentimes does is when we feel obligated to pursue something, we start to move away from the thing that we really desire. We start to extinguish our fire when we follow the thing that we feel obligated to do. A perfect example of this is someone that grows up in a household where their parents say, you're going to be a doctor. Doctors are here to save the world. I was a doctor. Your grandfather was a doctor, et cetera. But in the child's heart, I want to be a musician, right?
What does that do, though? It takes away their choice.
Of course. And it takes away their fire. It takes
away their sovereignty, their ability to
100%.
make and decide for themselves.
Exactly. And what it does is it starts to create a world that is dull. And when we have a dull world, we start to lose the color of our species. And we start to lose the color of our species, we begin down this path of, in my opinion, that those are the early steps to the demise of our species, to the demise of our uniqueness. It starts to turn us into a species that opts out. Right. And my invitation is to opt in. And this comes back to the principle here that I wanted to play with, which is that follow the things that excite you the most. That is actually what the world needs. The world does not need what's painted on a screen or read on a phone or said in a media network. What the world needs is you to embrace the truest and most authentic expression of yourself. And I believe that true and authentic expression of yourself exists in the thing that excites you the most. So your responsibility is to your own highest calling and purpose. Responsibility, follow the things that excite you the most. But I think, one of the pieces that I also want to explore a little bit here is that this is all great. Purpose, integrity, service to humanity, responsibility, not obligation, but responsibility to the things that excite you the most. Now we have that all, but there's still one piece that's missing. And this is oftentimes where I see, particularly a lot of people in my world of entrepreneurship struggle the most, which is like, I've gotten to a place now where like my desire is online, my ideas are activated, I'm ready. I want to be the superhero. I've got what's in place for it. And I think one of the one of the misconceptions is what happens next. Now, in the conscious and spiritual community that you and I spend a lot of time in, it's all about tapping into your dreams, activating your desires and so forth, like I'm saying. And then it's about surrender, which is to me like such a misperceived term, because people oftentimes take surrender very literally and mean, well, then I just don't do anything. Right? I simply just what do they say? Let God guide me, or
let go and let God.
Let go and let God. Thank you. That was the cliche that I was looking for. It's just let go and let God. Everything will just work out because I am in surrender. And, I see this oftentimes then translate over to the world of entrepreneurship and into a more action-oriented space where people get to the point where they're ready to do the thing and then they don't take the aligned action. And I believe that is one of the core and essential components that is missing in our world and a key principle of what it means to be a superhero, which is actually to now take this step forward.
I mean, you don't become a superhero by sitting on your couch.
Right.
Let's just be honest.
You don't become a superhero by just surrendering.
You don't become a superhero by being a keyboard warrior. Okay. You become a superhero by actually doing something, and that's the bottom line. It's like, what are you doing? Because if, again, just quoting the Bible here, like faith without works is dead. You need both. You can't just have one without the other and just be like, I'm just going to be a blind optimist and think that like my best life ever is just going to come knock on my door and I'm just going to wake up one day and everything's going to be like peace on earth. You have to become your own hero. You don't become somebody worth following when you have let yourself down over and over and over and over. Are you the hero to your own inner child who's looking for someone to look up to? Have you rescued and saved yourself versus I'm waiting for someone to like drop down Jesus to come back, or I'm waiting for Superman to show up, or I'm waiting for somebody to finally lead us to the promised land. It's like, where are you in that equation? Where have you decided that's someone else's responsibility? It's about becoming your own hero and doing the thing that you needed someone to do for you when you were a kid.
Yes.
Whether that's encourage you, whether that's uplift you, believe in you, speak life into you, equip you with the skills and the opportunities that said you can do it. That's what it means to become your own hero. And then once you live that, in your expression of that, you become someone worth paying attention to. Otherwise, like so many people are worried about getting followers and like having a platform. What are you platforming? Where are you leading people? Mm-hmm. What are you actually, if I'm going to follow you, where are we going? Mm-hmm. So again, it starts with yourself and then it trickles outward. And so many people have it backwards, trying to do the opposite of when I become this, then I'll be this inside. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, that's just not how it works.
100%. It starts with you. It starts with taking action, aligned action. And, to the point that you were just making too, and maybe we'll put this as a bonus principle for being a superhero, but it also means doing hard things. Maybe the thing that was never done for you before. Maybe it means advocating for something that was never advocated on your behalf. Maybe it means speaking for something that you believe in when the rest of the world may not agree with you.
I mean, you've just experienced that in some ways, like I've watched you advocate for yourself in recent weeks and months and see the byproduct of that. Whereas in the past, you haven't done that for yourself. And you've reaped we will reap what we sow.
No question about it.
You sow good seeds, you will get, and you take care of those seeds and you nourish those seeds, they will grow into something good. If you don't even spread seeds, or the seeds you spread, you don't take care of, you don't water, you don't give sunlight, you don't act on them, then don't be surprised when you don't have a harvest. Sorry.
Another bonus superhero principle. Thanks to this one here, our resident superhero. Pick yourself first.
I've seen that in you, and now I'm watching you reap the benefits of your hard work and your your devotion and your commitment, and you're living in accordance with your values. And that is the thing I do, I think, in our relationship, but I do for my clients. And I think part of the world is like once you know what you're worth, go out and get what you're worth.
100%.
And don't
100%.
tolerate.
And don't make the excuse that you're putting other people above you. Leaders eat last it's the most backwards statement that there ever has been, because what about when you're on a plane? Who do they tell you to put the oxygen mask on first? Yourself.
If you don't have something to give, you have nothing to give.
100%. You can't change the world without supporting and changing yourself first, truth be told. And so coming back to these core principles of being a superhero that I've been referencing here, with a couple bonuses added by our lovely, again, superhero in residence, the great Queen Tori Gordon here. Superheroes are ultimately made by choices. Are you willing to make the choice to pursue your passion, to live with integrity, to live with responsibility, to pick yourself first, to take aligned action?
The other thing about a superhero is they don't make it about them.
Right.
You see the superhero come in and do the thing, and then they're out.
Yep.
They're on to the next thing. They're not there like looking for a medal.
Yes. 100%.
And looking for recognition. And there's a lot of people out there that want to be seen as like, look at me, look at me, look at me. For me, that's a red flag.
100%. Because again, the purpose that you're pursuing is bigger than you.
Right.
The purpose that you're pursuing is bigger than you. So I want to bring this all back home now into what we can take home and what the journey has been like for me. And of course, I'd love to hear from you as well about actually what's next in activating your superpower. Like, what does it mean to bring your superpower online? I think we understand the core principles now. I think we get a general idea of what every superhero has. But my question is, where do we go from here? And so the first place I want to start with, and I think we've been exploring this a lot, but I always, whenever people come to me and ask me, like, in particular for me, it's like, how do I build a great business, right? Because I spend a lot of time in that space. And in Tori's world, it oftentimes can be, how do I live the life that I desire, right? And I always like to start with the simplest thing, which is like, find the thing that you actually just enjoy doing. Keep it super simple. Again, I shared it earlier before, but follow the thing that excites you the most. Like, what do you like, right? Mm. What do you like? And also, what do you not like? In one of those, or possibly in a combination of both, you might begin to discover the thing that's going to be your driving force forward. Whether it's I'm following the thing that excites me the most, or I'm following the thing that is really frustrating me about what's existing in the world today.
Yeah, it's either what sets me on, like what lights me up like a Christmas tree, or what breaks my heart.
Yeah. Either way, it's setting you on fire.
Yeah.
And on the other side of that is your desire. Whether it's a desire to change a need that exists in the world, or it's a desire to pursue something that you really enjoy. Find any great innovation or creation by our species. It's been on the other side of one of those. Someone really wanted to do something because it just got them super excited and it was incredible to do. Or there was a legitimate societal level need that someone said, I'm going to go pursue it and solve it because I'm going to be the superhero for this. So step one, find the thing that you like or that you hate. Step number two is begin the process of finding what feels bigger than you, right? So I like or I don't like this is already a starting place for building a foundation for something that exists outside of you. Again, your purpose is bigger than you, right? So we really want to spend time on tuning into the thing that's bigger than you. In our world of Abundance 360, we refer to this as your massive transformative purpose, right? It's not just the thing that you can call your mission. It's the thing that fuels whatever you desire to do. That's not just going to impact the lives of 1 million, but it's going to impact the lives of 1 billion, right? And to be able to create societal level impact to solve the thing that excites you the most or angers you and frustrates you the most, it starts with a deep burning desire and a deep burning purpose, or in this case, something that's simply bigger than you. So I encourage you to play around with the thing that feels outside of you, that oftentimes can feel like the thing that is being drawn out of you, or that you are just receiving that internal ping and calling forward. So that's number two. Number three, now we get to start to play with this idea of like, what does that actually look like in terms of what do I want to create in the world? right? So it's like, find the thing that excites me the most, find the thing that angers me, that frustrates me the most, the likes and the dislikes, right? Secondarily, let's start to think about, how does that actually turn into my fuel, right? How does that start to shift into my purpose? How does that start to call me to something bigger than me? And then let's actually start to break it down into what it can actually be, right? Knowing that you have every tool available to create the thing that you desire in the world. Let's start to think what that actually looks like. What is your unique imprint on life that you desire to live, that you desire to lead and desire to live, and recognize that it can be anything. Your word is enough. Your word is enough. And most importantly, anything that you do is enough. You don't need to be an engineer or a scientist or an inventor to create something great in the world. All you need to do is have the willingness to express yourself fully, completely, authentically, and transparently. Which I actually want to pause on that for a moment as we reach the end of our episode here. I have a few final notes I want to share in this journey of becoming a superhero, but I'm sitting next to someone that very freely, openly, authentically expresses herself. So my question to you is, in your journey of bringing forward what you want to create in the world, which a lot of it is shaped by your voice, like what liberates you? What gives you the freedom just to speak fully about what you believe in?
I think I'm afraid of mediocrity. I'm afraid of being average. I don't want to waste the preciousness of my life. And, I've come to accept, and I think this is part of embracing whatever it is your purpose is you have to embrace yourself. You have to embrace your own giftings. You have to believe that you are gifted and to lean into that. Not as this makes me better than anyone, but this makes me me. And each of us have those gifts inside of us. Again, Marianne Williamson, wonderful teacher of mine. She's been on this show multiple times. She has a beautiful quote that says, it is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We are all meant to shine. It does not serve the world to dim our light just so that other people don't feel inadequate around us. So many people try to be less than what they are so that other people aren't uncomfortable. That doesn't serve the world. We're all meant to serve, to shine, as we're all children of God. We're all meant to shine our light. You're not supposed to put your light under a basket. You're supposed to shine it. You're supposed to be it. You're supposed to express it, and I've just come to the point where I've just accepted that. I've embraced that. Mm-hmm. And that if I want to be of service, then the best way I can serve the world is by being and giving all that I am to what I do. But that's come with a lot of, it has challenged me to look at all of the ways that I have suppressed my voice and made myself small, and all of the fears that have in the conditioning that has come with that. That's been a lot of religious trauma, a lot of, dogmatic belief systems, a lot of shame, a lot of indoctrination about what's acceptable and what's good and what's right. And it's been a reclamation of that. And, I think the greatest thing we can do is to actually lean into our gifts, not to deny them, not to dismiss them, to be like, when someone gives you a compliment, accept it, embrace it, allow that, and believe it, versus like downplaying what you're good at, downplaying what your skills are and your abilities are. Some of us, there are a lot of gifted people in the world, and you do the world a disservice when you deny those things and when you hold those back. And so, I think I want to be all that I came here to be.
So when I love that, and thank you. When I talk about the thing that you create in the world, the thing that you bring to the world as being kind of like the result of you pursuing the thing that you like, or it's frustrating to you and you finding that purpose that fuels you, that thing that you bring to the world can just be the authentic expression of you, because that is your unique imprint, and that is more than enough. And that, by the way, that scales. If we're talking about how we impact the lives of billions of people, you scale. You're authentic. Your authenticity, your transparency, your vulnerability, your unique imprint scales, that will change the world.
And the reason for that is it's not so much about what you do, it's a frequency.
Exactly.
It's a resonance, because authenticity is the highest vibration you can vibrate at because it's truth. So if you want to scale, if you want to magnetize the things you want, it's not from effort. It's not about working harder. It's about being in alignment and a vibration of resonance and harmony inside of yourself. And that is what will elevate you.
Yes, 100%. I like to think of this, I like to play with this question, which is, what future will you living your life then unlock for others? That's how your authentic expression scales. So that being said, I want to close with this thought, which is that the world is going to move forward because of people that choose to dream. It's going to move forward because of people that are willing to chase visions bigger than themselves. And the truth is here that the hero that you've been waiting for is actually already here. And it's not out there, it's in you. So the invitation here is that the call for courage it's blaring. It's louder than ever before. And the question in that is, are you going to answer it? And I believe that you will.
Yeah. Because whether we do or not, this world will keep spinning. Whether we stand up to the challenge and we step forward or not, Mama Gaia will continue to do what nature does, and that is regenerate itself. And she will create something and birth something beautiful. But we get to play a part in that if we choose to. And again, it comes back to choice.
100%.
What are you going to choose?
Yes. Superheroes don't wear capes. They make choices. And like I said, I deeply believe that you can do it too. And we deeply believe in you. So for this episode of How to Stay Human, thank you for joining us. Thank you for spending your most valuable asset with us, your time. Make sure to subscribe, tune in with us weekly. Can't wait to see you here again.
Thanks, guys.